get your acts together, we will introduce ourselves, and then we would like to meet you and your teacher. We'll get started.
My name is Amy Dudas. I'm an attorney in Richmond, Indiana. I'm the president of the Indiana Bar Foundation, and I also run a nonprofit arts organization called DIVA.
I'm Sue Leeson, Senior Justice, Oregon Supreme Court. Boring.
I'm Lindsay Draper, retired from the juvenile court bench in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, and to the extent that anyone cares, huge SEC fan, so I'm just really pleased to be here.
Would you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Jacob Wismar. I'm a sophomore at Haynes Academy.
I'm Rachel Guan, sophomore at Haynes Academy.
I'm Daniela Garcia, sophomore from Haynes Academy, and this is our teacher, Mr. Christopher Totaro.
Good morning.
Congratulations for being here. All right, question 1. Why did the founders prefer a republican form of government to a democracy? Does such sentiment exist today? Explain your response. What evidence, if any, is there that suggests that the United States has evolved from being a republic into being a democratic republic? What civic dispositions among the people are required for the healthy functioning of a democratic republic? Should government encourage civic dispositions that promote the healthy functioning democratic republic? If not, why not? If so, how? We look forward to your response.
Hence it is that democracies have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and in general have been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. A republic, a government in which a scheme of representation takes place, opens a different prospect and promises the cure for which we are seeking, said James Madison, founding father and the 4th President of the United States, in Federalist Paper No. 10. The founders mainly believed in a republican form of government as opposed to a direct democracy because of its many faults. In theory, all citizens have an equal say and are technically treated equally, but direct democracy often allows for the tyranny of the majority over the minority. Even though decisions are directed by a majority vote in a direct democracy, the common good is rarely a point of emphasis in decision-making. Most people tend to look out for themselves first and will not typically vote for something that would require them to make a personal sacrifice, even if such sacrifice would benefit a majority of the population. However, the public tends to prefer a democracy as opposed to a republic. Such sentiment was clear in the 2016 presidential election, where the results of the Electoral College disagreed with the popular vote of the people, but the people still preferred the latter. This has occurred 4 times before in our nation's history, where the president has been elected by the Electoral College, but not by the majority vote of the people.
In our founding documents, the term republic appears in Article 4 of the Constitution, which guarantees to every state in this union a republican form of government, showing the founders' preference for this form of government. The Supreme Court in Luther v. Borden of 1849 declared the definition of a republic was a political question in which it would not intervene. However, in United States v. Cruikshank of 1875, the court ruled that the equal rights of citizens were inherent to the idea of a republic. Benjamin Franklin said, "When you assemble a number of men to have the advantage of their joint wisdom, you inevitably assemble with those men all their prejudices, their passions, their errors of opinion, their local interests, and their selfish views." While this shows that the founding fathers were not fond of a direct democracy, the U.S. still evolved from being a republic to a democratic republic. In 1902, Oregon first introduced direct democracy in the form of initiatives and referendums, allowing citizens of the state to place new legislation on a popular ballot. Other states began to follow, and soon nationwide this became known as the Oregon system of direct government. In addition, in 1913, the 17th Amendment was ratified to allow the direct election of senators. This gave citizens a further say in the government process.
Civic dispositions are defined as traits essential for democratic character development and the maintenance of the constitutional government. They include aspects such as respect for the rule of law, civic duty, respect for human rights, and concern for the welfare of others. According to the author of Democracy in America, Alexis de Tocqueville, these behavioral dispositions were the habits of the heart, and he claimed that democracy could not work without them. And although these aren't written, these values are expressed in the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and other significant documents, speeches, and writings of the nation. The government should promote these dispositions as they enable people to become independent members of society who accept the moral and legal obligations of a democracy and take personal responsibility for their actions. The government should do so by encouraging thoughtful and effective participation in civic affairs. They should also require citizens to be more informed about politics and government, monitor political leaders and public agencies to ensure their actions are principled, and work through peaceful, legal means to change unjust policies. As Thomas Jefferson once said, I have no fear that the result of our experiment will be that men may be trusted to govern themselves without a master. We now stand open for questions.
You emphasize that one of the civic dispositions required is thoughtful participation in affairs, in public affairs, and you also point to the Oregon Revolution with the initiative referendum and so on. Oregon is about at its knees because of the initiative. We've destroyed the tax system. We have hampered the legislature. How do we reconcile this greater democratization, if you will, with thoughtful participation? What does that mean? What does it require? Especially if the people are willing to assume responsibility for direct legislation.
I believe that thoughtful participation in government requires knowledge of the government so that you can formulate opinions that are more educated and more politically correct, if you believe so. Because by encouraging thoughtful participation, that includes that you want to vote in government processes, or you want representatives who will represent your ideas well enough.
But no, particularly as regards the initiative, and it's something you guys put on the table, direct democracy. How do people become informed to participate in direct democracy? Polls show social media and money dominate the initiative process. Should we get rid of it?
No, I do not believe that we should get rid of like social media and
The initiative.
The initiative
Yeah.
with like its uses through social media, because the initiative allows people to express their concerns for public policy to their legislators and allow them to be
The Oregon system allows people to amend the Constitution and to legislate directly, not just make a recommendation to the legislature. Some states, you're right, it's recommended. But the Oregon system is direct democracy at its best. We'll move on. Go ahead. Or worse, Jay.
Not moving too far from that point, though, you have emphasized that the government should encourage people to become more knowledgeable. Which version of the government are you discussing? The government that was, I don't know, between 2008 and 2016? The government at the federal level, that's 2016 till now? Because they're not the same government, by the way. Or are we talking about the government that's in Louisiana? Who are you talking about when you say the government?
I believe that we're talking about the government as a whole because parts of history influence the policies that are still going on today. So if you want to know about the current levels of government as of now, then you should be informed about governments in the past and policies that were passed in the past.
And then also, I believe that all forms of government do lead to changes in America. Like with the Oregon system, this was something just at that state level, but eventually evolved to a national movement. So people do need to be informed about all levels of government in order to be more knowledgeable of what's going on in their present and possibly their futures.
And to be a bit more difficult with you, are we discussing the gerrymandered government, or are we talking about the part that I would like?
Part I'm thinking.
Well, I think everyone has a preference for what form of government they actually like, but gerrymandering is included within all governments, so I believe that it should be part of what you know as well, because government as a whole includes things like gerrymandering, and if you're educated about that, then you'll likely make more educated opinions about that.
So let's draw that out just a little bit more in a specific example. Okay, I'm from Indiana. Indiana just recently attempted to make the citizenship test a requirement to graduate from high school in a way to mandate civics education at the high school level. Do you believe that the citizenship test is a good way to measure a person's understanding of civics today?
I feel like in schools we don't learn enough about like civic engagement in the government, and because not everyone has the benefit to come to something like this. So I think that by having a citizenship test, it'll be able to teach students when they're young about government and how they can vote to ensure that the common good of the country is like best promoted. So I think that would be a good decision to be made.
So the citizenship test, have you seen it? Have you read it?
My parents actually had to take a citizenship
What
test.
they learn?
It's basic civics. It's like about U.S. presidents, past history, and then it wasn't very.
And how many stars and stripes on the flag? Back to you. How does that help with citizen engagement to know the trivia, if you will, about the stuff of American government?
I feel like it's more than trivia to know how many stars and stripes are on the flag. Knowing the different states will help you know about like federal issues and how different states are affected by different things, like swing states, how that all ties into like voting.
To add on to that, trivia is important because it's common knowledge for U.S. citizens, at least. So if you want to take a citizenship test and become a citizen, then you might want to integrate with what citizens know, and I think a citizenship test would be a good way to do that.
Also, I feel like that American trivia that is on the test, like how many stripes and how many stars, it is symbolic for Americans today. Like the 13 stripes, it's for the 13 colonies that founded America.
So without that understanding, you know nothing about American federalism. If all you memorize is the number of stars and stripes, you learn nothing about federalism. If you go deeper, you learn something about federalism, which is core. Does the citizenship test, do folks talk to you? Did it teach them any of that?
It actually did, and they actually learned more than just basic trivia. They also learned, like, as I said, about past presidents, a few of the more important movements, like the New Deal. There was also maybe, like, the Great Depression was also in there. So it was, like, history and combined with civics that they learned about. And I think it's important as an American to understand our values that come from our past.
So how do we control the, was that time?
That was time.
I wanted to
I
ask
just
you
want
more.
to stay. Nice job. You're an energetic team, and obviously we would like to stay and talk with you more. In your opening statement, you talked about the great fault of direct democracy being tyranny of the majority. And you go on to celebrate the initiative and tyranny of the majority. I thought, 30,000 feet, terrific. I've got to take you down to the ground. How's this stuff working? What kind of tyranny of the majority were the drafters of the Constitution worried about? Not only the drafters of the United States Constitution, but of the state constitutions that preceded, that laid the foundation for those debates in Philadelphia. Once you can start bringing in that kind of evidence, you're just going to be unstoppable. That's where I would push you to do some more of it. Very nice job.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. You had a great handle on the material. Your opening remarks were very thorough and